Good morning, I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Right now on Morning News Now, a new twist in the legal showdown over Texas's controversial abortion ban as the Department of Justice weighs in. The new developments and what it all could mean for the most restrictive abortion law in the country. Mandate debate, new questions about if and how employers should enforce COVID vaccine requirements. And as the White House prepares to issue guidance, one governor is taking matters into his own hands, defying the White House. We'll break down what's at stake as more people head back into the office. Stepping down, John Gruden, head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, now out of a job over racist, homophobic, and misogynistic comments uncovered in a series of old emails.
I'm not a racist. I can't tell you how sick I am. I apologize again.
Details on the investigation that led up to his resignation, plus how the team is responding. Beam me up, Scotty, the man best known for playing Captain Kirk, is boldly going where no one his age has gone before. We'll get perspective on tomorrow's historic space launch from someone with firsthand experience. And it's our birthday. That's right. Morning News Now turns 1 year old today. We'll take a look back at some of our most memorable moments on the show as we thank you, our loyal viewers, for an incredible first year. Can you believe it's been a year?
I know, and we're not 6 feet apart anymore for starters.
We caught a little bit of that there. Yeah, we're a little bit closer than when we started. Literally and figuratively.
Exactly. So we're looking forward to looking back and reminiscing on the past year.
Yes, absolutely. And you've been such a big part of it. So thank you for being here then and now. Let's start this morning with the latest COVID news. One of the country's largest states is now fighting back against vaccine mandates.
Overnight, Texas Governor Greg Abbott issued a ban on vaccine mandates in the Lone Star State. His executive order prohibits any entity, even private businesses, from imposing vaccine requirements on employees or customers. Abbott says he's responding to the Biden administration's vaccine requirement, which he calls federal overreach. The White House's mandate requires businesses with more than 100 employees make sure their workforces are vaccinated or tested regularly. Daily vaccinations have been ticking up in recent weeks as more companies, states, and cities issue mandates. More than 56% of the U.S. is now fully vaccinated against COVID-19. As more people get vaccinated, we're seeing the number of COVID cases go down. An average of 70,000 Americans are testing positive each day right now. Compare that with 2 weeks ago, more than 109,000 cases were reported daily. We have a team covering the latest on the pandemic, including the fight against vaccine mandates. We're going to begin with NBC News health and medical reporter Erica Edwards, who's covering the top coronavirus headlines this morning. So, Erica, let's start with this ban on vaccine mandates in Texas. What is in this order from Governor Greg Abbott, and what does it mean for businesses that are trying to comply with the Biden administration's mandate?
Hi, Joe. Good morning. Yeah, that executive order issued yesterday, just as you said, prohibits any entity, including private companies, from enforcing vaccine mandates for its employees or customers. Now, Governor Abbott, a Republican, issued a statement saying that the COVID-19 vaccine is safe, effective, and our best defense against the virus, but should remain voluntary and never forced. This, of course, was in response to the Biden administration's announcement from last month saying that larger businesses would require their employees to get vaccinated or be tested for COVID-19 regularly. Now, some major businesses based in Texas, American Airlines, for example, had already previously put a vaccine mandate in place. It also gets trickier for companies that operate in different states. Facebook and Google, for example, both employ thousands of Texans. So far, their vaccine mandates are holding. Joe?
Feels like this one's going to be hashed out in the courts. Let's talk about booster shots. Nearly 8 million Americans have already received a booster dose. Now the World Health Organization is recommending immunocompromised people get a booster. It was the WHO that previously criticized countries like the U.S. for starting a booster rollout. So what's behind this new decision from them?
Yeah, this is very specific to people with compromised immune systems. They tend not to really mount a good response or any response to the first 2 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine. They really do need that third shot, science has proven, to get protected. What the World Health Organization is strongly against is giving otherwise healthy people that booster shot, much like what the U.S. is doing, while other countries haven't had any vaccines at all. One WHO spokesperson likened it to putting 2 life jackets on one person and leaving others unprotected. Joe?
Now, Erica, we do continue to see some signs of normalcy. The Boston Marathon was held yesterday. New York City held its first parade since the pandemic began. Even though cases are dropping, what are you hearing from experts about the winter? Do they fear another surge similar to what happened starting last December, or are they more hopeful this time around?
So the biggest difference between now and then is the vaccines. Now more than half, 56% of the U.S. population is fully vaccinated. We could have a vaccine for kids ages 5 to 11 as early as next month. Now, that said, former FDA Commissioner Scott Gottlieb said yesterday that, we should still continue with masking and other mitigation measures as winter approaches and we do sort of huddle together indoors. Here's what he had to say.
We're still not seeing a big resurgence of infection here in the Northeast. New England and the northern states, we are seeing cases start to tick up. I think as the weather gets cold and people move indoors into confined spaces without masks, you're going to have risk and you're going to see cases pick up. And I still think you could do things that you want to do. You just have to be more careful about how you approach them.
Now, one thing doctors are concerned about is the flu. We could see a resurgence there. Of course, it was virtually non-existent last year. The CDC does recommend everyone ages 6 months and older get a flu shot. Joe?
That's right. Keep washing those hands, too. All right, Erica Edwards, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Companies across the country are preparing for President Joe Biden's vaccine or test mandate. It will require organizations with at least 100 employees to make sure workers are either vaccinated, tested weekly for COVID, or work from home. The president says the plan will save lives and help boost the economy, but how will it be enforced? Here to walk us through that is NBC News correspondent Heidi Presbella. She joins us now from Oxon Hill, Maryland. Heidi, good morning. So, logistically, this is a massive undertaking, and it's supposed to be enforced by what's called the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, which is actually understaffed to begin with. So how is the agency going to make sure businesses comply with these mandates?
Yeah, Savannah, according to internal documents that NBC obtained, OSHA inspectors, the number of inspectors is actually down by about a third since 2010. So you ask, how are they going to do everything that they do today, plus this vaccine mandate? Well, according to the longest serving OSHA director, Dr. David Michaels, who spoke with NBC, he says, look, everybody is getting this wrong. This is not an actual mandate. It's a mandate by default. In other words, it's going to be so onerous for companies to pay for the testing, to manage the testing, do the record keeping, that it will be by default that they choose to do this. So they're assuming they do not have to set foot inside most companies. Now, when you do have a problem, then what happens? Well, they're assuming that they're going to rely largely on whistleblowers, Savannah. So in other words, here at NBC, if we have a vaccine mandate, I'm vaccinated, you're not, the company's not doing anything about it. Am I going to essentially report that? Right. And is that a way for the government then to prioritize industries and basically make a model out of companies that aren't doing it? It's called naming and shaming, issuing press releases and big fines.
All right. Now, the mandate's also facing pushback from leaders, especially in conservative states. We mentioned Texas Governor Greg Abbott issued an order banning these COVID vaccination mandates. How's that going to impact the mandate's enforcement, and what kind of punishments could businesses face that are not in compliance?
Yeah, Savannah, after doing a lot of reporting on this, it became pretty clear that this may really come down to regional and industry differences, that the Biden administration and OSHA itself is going to have to prioritize those industries and those regions that are most resistant to this. For instance, I spoke with the CEO of a machine company that is a huge machine company all across the Deep South and headquartered in Mississippi, Lex Taylor, the CEO of Taylor Industries. And he said, look, I have tried. OK, I already gave individuals a day off, a vacation day to go and get the vaccine. I'm still only at about 30%. And so he says, I cannot then just overnight issue this vaccine mandate and fire all of my employees. So now he feels like he's in a real hard place, because now he's going to have to go out and purchase all these tests, run the record-keeping program. Well, the administration and OSHA are going to be aware of that. They're going to know that certain industries like construction, perhaps like meat packing in certain regions, for instance, across the Deep South, are the ones where they're going to need to be prioritizing these spot inspections and trying to get information, because, frankly, some of the employees might be hesitant to do that whistleblowing in these areas where the mandate's not popular.
Lots of back and forth and tough decisions here. Heidi, thank you so much for your reporting.
Dr. Amy Schudelja joins us now. He's a senior scholar at the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security. Doctor, always good to have you with us. So first of all, what's your reaction to states like Texas banning vaccine mandates? Do you think this is going to have much of an impact on the overall vaccination rate at this point?
It's probably not going to have a major impact, but I think it really speaks to the fact that they're trying to prevent private employers, private industry from setting the terms of their employment. And I think that's the wrong way to go about this. I think that private companies, if they want to issue a mandate, should not be blocked by the government. And you also don't want companies to be in a position where if they comply with the federal law, they're in violation of the state law and vice versa. These governors really need to back off and continue and stop continuing to pander to people that are unvaccinated and the anti-vaccine groups in their states.
And Doctor, I've got a question for you on booster shots that comes with some new numbers we have. So while the U.S. rolls out these additional doses, there's the challenge of reaching people who still don't have their first dose. But the boosters may actually be having an impact on resistance to the shot. According to these numbers, take a look at this here. You see on your screen in a new survey from the Kaiser Family Foundation, 71% of unvaccinated people say that the need for boosters indicates that the vaccines were not working. That's what they're taking away from this additional dose. What's your message to them? How do you change minds?
Many of us predicted that this was going to be one of the cascading negative impacts of the booster decision, and that's why we wanted the booster decision to be very narrowly focused on people who really had the scientific data to support the need for them, for elderly people, those with pre-existing conditions, not for the general population. Because if you tell people you've got to get another dose 6 months after the second, those people who already think the vaccine doesn't work are going to think that this is more evidence of that. But you have to really show them what we want a vaccine to do, and that's prevent against serious disease, hospitalization, and death. And by that standard, the vaccines are holding up really, really well. These boosters are about stopping mild breakthroughs in most people in the general population, in severe disease in the higher risk population. So you've got to tell them what a vaccine really does.
All right, Dr. Amy Schudelja, as always, thanks so much for your expertise. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Now, new developments this morning following those massive delays for thousands of customers flying Southwest Airlines this weekend. Only a handful of flights are being impacted today as Southwest flight operations return to normal. According to the company, weather and other external factors were to blame for the mass cancellations over the weekend, not employee protests over the COVID vaccine mandate. An estimated 100,000 passengers were impacted by the ongoing cancellations. The company has issued an apology to its customers, and I know one of us at this desk is happy about that news.
Hopefully, we'll see what happens later this week. All right. The legal battle over a controversial Texas abortion ban took another twist last night. The Department of Justice called the law unconstitutional, as once again urging courts to stop it from being implemented. In a filing, the DOJ said, quote, if the scheme is permissible, no constitutional right is safe from state-sanctioned sabotage of this kind. Said that the law's unconstitutionality is obvious and that Texas is unlikely to succeed on the merits. NBC News Justice correspondent Julia Ainsley is with us now. More on this. Julia, the DOJ hit back just days after an appeals court reinstated the abortion ban. Walk us through the DOJ's response and what comes next. Is it now really only a matter of time before at some point the Supreme Court gets involved?
I mean, it looks that way, Joe. Right now, we just heard yesterday from a 3-judge panel in the Fifth Circuit. That is who DOJ is making this plea to, saying, please put this on hold while the appeals process plays out. Now, they could appeal and have the entire bench, what they would call an en banc hearing, where all the judges in the Fifth Circuit hear this case. And that's what they'll do next. But then if that court, which is arguably the most conservative in the nation, again, won't hear the Justice Department's plea to try to put a pause on this law, then it would inevitably go to the Supreme Court again. But the filing is really interesting, Joe. I mean, what they're saying is this isn't just about abortion. This is about rights anywhere. Any issue you take a problem with, whether that be on the right or the left, if we allow private citizens to start suing others who may be tangentially connected to any issue, be it gun control, abortion, you name it, then basically you're taking the power of governing out of the hands of the governors. And that is a place where you would make a law exempt from judicial review. And simply that cannot stand. That's the argument they make here very strongly.
You know, Julia, other GOP-controlled states have had similar abortion bans blocked by the courts before. This Texas law is proving to be a lot more durable. Can you help us understand why that is?
Yeah, I'll get back more into that judicial review, how basically what happens is that the courts can get involved to say that state legislators do not have the right to intervene and take the right of abortion away from women because that's being protected at the federal level, and it's been protected for a long time under the Roe versus Wade precedent set by the Supreme Court. But this law is different because it's not being protected by state regulators. Instead, it's being protected in civil lawsuits by individual citizens. It would allow an individual citizen to sue anybody connected with a woman's abortion, whether or not that individual citizen knew that woman or not. And so it's a way for them to try to get around this. So in the past, when some of these lawsuits have challenged this law, they've had to go after and sue people like the clerk of the court, because it's really unclear who's enforcing this, because it's really the courts enforcing it at this moment rather than the state. They can't sue the state of Texas. That is how these laws have been blocked in the past, and that's why this one gets around it in such a surreptitious way.
You know, Julia, abortion rights advocates have been speaking about the impact this ban is having on Texas women looking to get an abortion. Quickly on this last point, but what are they saying? How has it been affecting them?
Well, that it's a near total abortion ban. That's what they say. That even when we saw that brief lift last week, Joe, when the district court judge said that this law was flagrantly unconstitutional and that it should not stand before this Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals got involved, even then they were able to do very few because they were worried that they could then be sued at a later date, because this law also builds that in, that if it's lifted temporarily, put back in place, you could be sued. So still a lot of fear for a lot of women trying to get these procedures in Texas.
Julia Ainsley, thanks so much for your reporting.
Now, there's new fallout this morning surrounding the January 6th insurrection and how Capitol Police responded that day.
An anonymous whistleblower is blasting law enforcement leadership, accusing top officials of sitting on potentially vital intelligence in the days leading up to the insurrection. NBC News senior Washington correspondent Hallie Jackson has the story.
New fallout from an explosive letter written by an anonymous former Capitol Police officer describing top department officials as responsible for the single greatest intelligence failure in the history of the U.S. Capitol Police, calling out senior leaders Yogananda Pittman and Sean Gallagher specifically. Quote, "What I observed was them mostly sitting there, blankly looking at the TV screens showing real-time footage of others." A law enforcement source tells NBC News the two leaders were focused on the evacuation of congressional leadership. Pittman with Lester back in April.
Every day I think about the well-being of the officers.
Capitol Police say although there's more work to do, many of the problems described in the letter have been addressed and that they're committed to learning from prior mistakes.
It's all the more reason that we need to continue to see an aggressive January 6th bipartisan commission pursue the ground truth of what happened that day.
It comes as the former president, rallying in Iowa this weekend, hints at another run.
We're using the same slogan, "Make America Great Again,"
and clings to the lie that triggered that insurrection, that the election was stolen, even though it was not.
I never conceded, never.
But state after state where the election was close conducted audits to check the vote totals. Georgia even counted 3 times, with all of it confirming again that Joe Biden won. Still demonstrating Mr. Trump's hold on his party, this new dodge from a top GOP leader.
So you think the election was stolen?
What I said is there are states that didn't follow their legislatively set rules.
Do you think the election was stolen?
Yeah. And it's not just irregular. It's states that did not follow the laws set, which the Constitution says they're supposed to follow.
GOP Congresswoman Liz Cheney, in response to that moment, tweeted, "Republicans have a duty to tell the American people that claims of a stolen election are just not true." Savannah, Joe, back to you.
All right, Hallie, thanks for that report.
Yeah. Now, the man who brought so many of us to the stars will finally get his moment in space tomorrow. Legendary actor William Shatner's Blue Origin rocket flight was delayed one day because of weather conditions. Now, the National Weather Service predicts winds in West Texas to reach as high as 75 miles per hour today. Now, barring any further setbacks, the 90-year-old is slated to be the oldest person in space ever. Here he is speaking to the Today Show about his upcoming adventure.
I've got to think that once it's done, once I've been into space and seen the universe and seeing our Earth and the contrast between that hostility and this warmth and how important it is to keep the Earth alive so that we don't wreck it, we human beings don't wreck it. That contrast in all of that is so dramatic to me.
Amazon founder Jeff Bezos and his rocket company are now selling tickets to see Earth from space. Shatner is scheduled to fly with Blue Origin's Vice President of Mission and Flight Operations and two people who spent $250,000 for their seats on New Shepard. Joining us now is former NASA astronaut Scott Altman. He's also a recent winner of the Illinois Order of Lincoln for his work uplifting his community. Scott, congratulations on that, and thank you for being here with us. It's always a fun day when we get to intro someone who's actually been to space, so thanks for your help on this one. Let's start with the delay of this launch. So usually we actually see rockets blast off over from Florida, from Cape Canaveral, where rain can come and go as quickly as I'm asking this question. But how can wind in West Texas impact a launch?
Yeah, winds actually impacted my shuttle launches as well. The upper level winds change the trajectory, and you have to worry about what's going on there. So they made the call early that the forecast winds were going to be too high for the vehicle to follow its planned parameters and push to tomorrow.
Now, Scott, what's your advice to William Shatner, who's waited decades for his moment in zero gravity, but now has this extra 24 hours thinking about it? What do you think's going through his mind as he deals with this delay?
Well, I had two of my flights slip a day, so I know exactly what it's like to be all ready to go and then have to wait a day. But still, when you get out to the pad and you're there, it's going to be very exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing what he says after going up there. And my advice would be get to the window as soon as you can in zero G and just enjoy looking back at the Earth.
Yeah, absolutely. Scott, I mean, you've been up there on 4 space flights. Not to put you on the spot here, but would you ride on this rocket? Would you get on New Shepard and head up there?
Well, interestingly enough, two of my crewmates from my last mission are actually working for Blue Origin. Oh, wow. So I think it's a great ride. I'm excited that we're opening access to space so much, getting people like William Shatner. You know, I was not quite 10 years old when two things happened. Star Trek came to an end and we walked on the moon, two things that inspired my whole career. So it's great to see them coming together. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, what do you think about this, about Captain Kirk heading up?
Very cool. I'm excited for him. I think he's going to have a great time. Floating is awesome. It takes a little bit of getting used to. So with only 3 minutes, we'll see. But it's going to be a great 11 minutes ride.
All right. Scott Altman, thank you so much for joining us to talk about this morning.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
Time to get a check of the weather back here on Earth.
With Bill Cairns, of course. Hey, Bill, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Savannah. I have to say that you and I do not look a year older. I mean, we look great.
Wait.
Oh, Bill.
Okay. Oh, yes.
All right.
Sorry. I was just trying to give a compliment to someone.
Thank you, Bill.
All right, so, yes, no problem. So let's get into this forecast. We had a lot of severe weather over the weekend, especially in the Midwest. We had severe weather rolling through Illinois last night. That storm is leaving, and now the storm behind it, we have snow we're going to deal with, and we have another severe weather event later on tonight. So this is like our first snow forecast of the fall season. This is very typical. It happens in October. It's known that the Rockies get snow this time of year. The higher elevations will get nailed with this one, especially in Wyoming and areas of Montana. So the skiers are starting to wax up their skis. The snowboarders are excited because we're getting close to some of the first openings. You know, there's always a race in Colorado to see who can open first. So Colorado doesn't get a ton of snow out of this one, but they have another chance Thursday, Friday. And as far as severe weather goes, later on tonight, this will be an overnight event, Oklahoma and also Kansas, portions of Nebraska. We're going to get large hail, maybe some isolated tornadoes. So tomorrow morning, we'll update you on that and just show you if anything bad happened. Hopefully it won't. And as far as rainfall goes, areas from Del Rio to San Antonio up to Dallas is where we'll be dealing with areas of heavy rain, too, from this storm. So the other story, I mean, you guys have seen it. I mean, it's still incredibly warm. 70s all the way up through New England today. Tomorrow's the same thing. 80 in D.C. I mean, this week is going to be ridiculous. By Friday, guys, New York City is expecting 80 degrees in the middle of October.
Very weird, especially since right now it feels like fall. All right, Bill, thank you so much.
I'm not saying thank you.
I know.
I'm not saying thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
This morning, one of the NFL's most prominent coaches has resigned. John Gruden, former Super Bowl winner and head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, stepped down after a bombshell New York Times report. The story detailed years of racist, homophobic, and misogynistic emails, which Gruden sent before he was hired by the Raiders.
Yeah, the emails were uncovered as part of a separate investigation by the NFL, which has confirmed their authenticity. But the emails haven't been seen yet by us at NBC News. For more on that, we're joined by Chris Bumbaka, sports reporter for USA Today. Hi, Chris. Good morning. So first, just tell us, what do we know about these emails and about the NFL investigation that exposed them in the first place?
Good morning, both of you. Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, you hit on it right there while describing the emails. They are racist, homophobic, misogynistic. The big bombshell coming Friday when the Wall Street Journal reported that Gruden sent an email back in 2011 about Players Union Executive Director DeMaurice Smith, using a racial trope. And that kind of set off, a weekend long of apologies. And then the Raiders lost to the Steelers on Sunday. And then Monday night, obviously, the New York Times coming out with these newer emails, or I guess more recent emails, discovery about, he used homophobic language to describe Commissioner Roger Goodell. He denigrated women officiating crews. And he also, forced, or said that the league forced the Rams to select Michael Sam, the first openly gay player selected in the NFL draft. Just a few examples sent to former Washington football team executive Bruce Allen from Gruden's personal email account to Allen's team account. And as you said, those emails came to light at a separate investigation into the football team's culture.
The Raiders released a statement from Gruden last night. It says, quote, "I have resigned as head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. I love the Raiders and do not want to be a distraction. Thank you to all the players, coaches, staff, and fans of Raider Nation. I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt anyone." I mean, this is even more notable when you consider the Raiders really have the first openly gay active player in the NFL right now, on top of all the other comments out there. I mean, how have the Raiders in the league responded to the emails and now Gruden's resignation?
So the league, other than saying that they had an investigation into it and kind of widened the scope as of Friday, has remained pretty quiet on it, waiting for the Raiders to really take the lead on it. Yesterday, ESPN reported that owner Mark Davis, who so desperately wanted Gruden to come out of broadcasting at ESPN and come coach the Raiders, which he did, signing a 10-year, $100 million contract back in 2018, and ultimately decided to part ways. John Gruden says that he resigned, therefore kind of insinuating that he's giving up the money that he would be owed from that contract. So the Raiders have been pretty, quiet on that front, other than, Friday when after that first email came out, Mark Davis saying that it was disturbing and not what the Raiders stand for. Clearly Mark Davis doesn't believe in, what his coach or his former coach was saying, and thinks that he can no longer lead a locker room of men in the modern National Football League.
And Chris, what do you think these emails tell us about the behind-the-scenes culture in some parts of football?
I mean, it's pretty clear that it's still an old boys club to some respects. You see that the league has made in the last few years, specifically the last, maybe even 2 years, even though there is still, much criticism about the head coach hiring and the diversity of candidates, racially in that retrospect. But at the same time, it's kind of a disconnect there. You see end racism painted in the end zones and players' helmets, decals saying it takes all of us. And then you have, this coach, one of 32 jobs in the league, harboring views like this. So I think it's kind of the disconnect I was talking about. And like you guys said, Carl Nassib, the first openly gay player in the league, or first come out, he's on Gruden's team or was on Gruden's team. So, definitely, more work to do for the NFL in many respects. And this is just example A of that.
All right, Chris, thanks so much for joining us on this big and fast-moving story this morning. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Now, this morning, a naval engineer and his wife are appearing in federal court after the FBI says they tried to sell secrets from an American nuclear submarine to a foreign spy. NBC News correspondent Stephanie Gosk has this story.
Good morning, Savannah and Joe. This criminal complaint reads like a spy thriller, but it is real life, and the consequences could not be more serious.
The U.S. Navy's Virginia-class submarine can stay submerged for months and attack fast, using highly classified nuclear technology. The FBI says naval engineer Jonathan Tebbe attempted to sell its secrets to an unidentified country. According to a criminal complaint, an FBI agent in that country obtained Tebbe's original package, and on Saturday, the 42-year-old, along with his wife Diana, were arrested. Their neighbors in Maryland left stunned.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. It's like out of a movie.
Everybody talks to everybody, except nobody's ever really spoken to that family.
Tebbe worked for the U.S. Navy since 2012 and was directly involved in naval nuclear propulsion. According to court documents, he made multiple drops of restricted information, believing he was selling it to a foreign spy, when in fact it was an undercover FBI agent. One drop included an SD card stashed inside half a peanut butter sandwich, another in a Band-Aid wrapper. The FBI says his wife was in on the plan and acted at times as a lookout. In an encrypted message referenced in the complaint, Tebbe claimed he had a cache of information, including thousands of pages and schematics that were slowly and carefully collected over several years. He proposed selling 51 installments for a total of $5 million in cryptocurrency. Writing unwittingly to the undercover agent, "My friend, we have both taken considerable risks to reach this point, and with good luck, we'll soon have much to celebrate."
Instead, the couple are expected in a federal court today. They haven't entered a plea, but if they are found guilty on these espionage-related charges, the maximum penalty is life in prison. Savannah and Joe, back to you guys.
All right, Stephanie Gosk, thank you so much.
Time to take a look at what's making news around the world this morning.
Ali Arouzi joins us from London. Hey there, Ali.
Good morning, guys. Well, heavy flooding in the north of China, triggered by torrential rain, has killed at least 15 people, according to state TV. About 120,000 others have been evacuated, thousands of homes have collapsed, and almost 500,000 acres of crops have been damaged. Local authorities say it's the heaviest autumn rainfall ever recorded. Several cities across Bolivia have witnessed social unrest after opposition figures called for anti-government protests. Large numbers of people took to the streets to show their dissatisfaction for government policies. These are the largest protests in Bolivia since 2019, when then-President Evo Morales was forced to resign. And finally, the ever-popular Squid Games has spurred an interest in people wanting to learn how to speak Korean, underscoring this obsession with South Korean culture, from entertainment to beauty products. And those are your headlines, guys.
Oh, that's pretty interesting, that one. All right, Ali, thank you so much.
Ken Jennings can breathe a sigh of relief today. That's because Jeopardy contestant Matt Amodio's winning streak was finally snapped last night after winning 38 games. An actor named Jonathan Fisher narrowly won after Amodio missed the final Jeopardy clue, putting him in third place. It was the second longest win streak in the show's history, behind Jennings. He had 74 wins in a row. Amodio's cash winnings of a little over $1.5 million put him third on the all-time list when it comes to money, behind James Holzhauer and, of course, you guessed it, Ken Jennings. So good for Matt Amodio. That was a great run, and Jeopardy desperately needed some good news like that during this stretch. So
isn't that true? Also, wow, it just reminds you how good Ken Jennings was. He was not even close to him.
He kept on going and going and going. So,
all right, thanks, Joe. Now, the Boston Marathon returned yesterday after not being run for more than 2 years, but in its more than 100-year history, only 2 Native Americans have won the race. The Boston Athletic Association honored one of those winners, Ellison Tarzan Brown, Monday. His family sat down with NBC News to share some of their memories.
My name is Anna Brown Jackson. I'm here to represent the honoring of my grandfather, Ellison Tarzan Brown, who won the Boston Marathon in 1936 and 1939.
Give a warm welcome to Ellison Brown's grandchildren, Anna Brown Jackson and Michael Monroe Sr.
Who would have thought that a young Indian boy from the Narragansett tribe, was a very small tribe, but from the smallest state on the map, would have been able to achieve the accomplishments and feats he did.
Growing up, like, if I couldn't do something, I would think of my grandfather, and that would always give me the strength to push on even more.
To this day I die, I'm always gonna have Tarzan.
I think it's important that we kind of break down barriers, and we just need to build more bridges and have respect and communication for one another.
Right now, this awareness gets us a little bit closer to where we need to be. Hopefully, we can get to where everybody can be on the same page and same level.
I'm here today, a part of Wings of America, Indigenous Youth Running Organization. I'm here to work with Wings of America and the Boston Athletic Association to discuss Indigenous presence in the marathon history. There's a really magnificent and beautiful history to their contributions to the history of the Boston Marathon. You know, and some of these stories fall through the cracks. There's a place and time for me in my art and my running, and I'm able to share that through colors and able to represent my culture and my tribes back in Oklahoma on that starting line. And I know I'm carrying a rich legacy, like I said before, of Indigenous running, Indigenous messengers, and the resiliency that my ancestors had to carry to survive. And I'm just going to be running and holding that in my heart and my legs and run hard for them.
He was almost at the finish line right there on that banner, and you could see the pain, the accomplishment that he did, but also a way of life, how you can get through things if you're determined. That was the lesson. And that first thing I said was, look at that one right there. That was a good one. And we went right down. The first thing we did was right underneath it. That was here.
What a way to remember him. Now, the Boston Athletic Association actually apologized for moving the marathon to Indigenous Peoples Day Monday, saying they didn't mean to take away from the holiday or its importance. Now to a difficult story at the University of North Carolina. Classes have been canceled and students have been given a mental health day today while campus authorities investigate 2 possible suicides over the weekend. Mental health struggles among college students are rising across the country, and studies suggest it may be linked to COVID. According to the National Survey of Student Engagement, 53% of college kids are suffering from mental exhaustion. 30% are reporting symptoms of depression. Loneliness, hopelessness, and difficulty concentrating are also on the list. NBC News Now correspondent Isa Gutierrez joins us from the University of North Carolina with more. Isa, good morning. So as we just mentioned, students are off today to focus on their mental health after this tragic news. What are you seeing and hearing on campus there?
Good morning, Savannah. That's right. What we're hearing from students is that they are grieving right now, that there's this sort of cloud hanging over the campus at the moment following the deaths of these students. Now, students, after all, are the reason that classes are canceled today. Over the weekend, the student government formally asked university leaders in a letter to give them both Monday and Tuesday as mental health days. The university ended up only canceling classes on Tuesday, although some teachers also canceled their classes on Monday. Ultimately, students said that they're hoping that this will be a time for them to reflect, to grieve, and most importantly, to be able to find mental health services uninterrupted during this difficult time. Savannah?
Yeah, absolutely. No, mental health struggles among students, I mean, really everyone, are being described as a second pandemic. I mean, I think we can all understand why it's been a tough year, but I know you spoke to psychiatrists about what specifically might be causing teens and young people to deal with these struggles. What'd she say?
That's right, Savannah. Well, Dr. Dave told me that actually mental health issues among college students is something that had already been trending upwards prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. According to a recent University of Michigan study, we found that in 2020, nearly 40% of college students reported being depressed. That was up from 23% of them back in 2009 reporting being depressed. So really something that had already been a concern for mental health professionals like Dr. Dave that she had been keeping an eye on. Of course, the COVID-19 pandemic has brought on a whole other host of stressors for these students as well. Take a listen.
We have to remember that a lot of these students were maybe living at home. Maybe they were in environments that weren't the healthiest for them and weren't, like what you said, expected when it came to what they were thinking these years were going to be like. These are also students who, when they were coming from high school to college, their last years of high school may have also been disrupted in different ways. So they've had a loss of so many different things and so many different milestones and events. And then we put in the pressure of academically achieving, being away from home and support systems. And we're really just compounding those stressors right now.
Now, Dr. Dave told me that some of the things to look out for among college students to figure out whether or not they might be struggling at the moment are, first of all, changes in behavior. So changes in their sleeping, in their eating, in how often and in the way that they're communicating with their friends and with their families. On college campuses in particular, another thing to look out for is changes in substance use. And then finally, of course, she said it's important to really take seriously statements from college students like, I'm in a dark place, I need help, or I'm really struggling right now. Savannah?
Absolutely, especially if someone opens up to you like that. Isa Gutierrez, thank you so much. Such an important story. And now if you or anyone you know is struggling, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255, or text TALK to 741-741. Now it's time for our CNBC Money Minute, the biggest financial headlines of the day and why they matter to you.
Silvana Henao is with us this morning. Silvana, good morning.
Good morning. So in a change of policy, Amazon will give its employees more flexibility to work from home even after offices reopen next year. CEO Andy Jassy said in a memo to employees that Amazon will allow managers to work with their teams to decide how often employees should come into the office. The move marks a shift from the company's earlier return to work plans, in which Amazon expected most employees to work in the office at least 3 days a week, beginning in January 2022. Amazon is now also giving corporate employees the option to work fully remotely for up to 4 weeks each year from any location within the country they are employed. Just 1 week after a massive Facebook outage took all of its apps offline for more than 6 hours, Instagram says it is testing in-app notifications that will alert users to temporary issues like outages. The alerts would appear in a user's activity feed near other in-app notifications and could let users know about issues like a story upload not working or a wider outage like the ones last week. Instagram did note that it does not plan to alert users to every issue, but ones that may cause widespread confusion. The platform is testing this feature in the U.S. for the next few months. And a new study from Fidelity Investments shows women investors are outperforming their male counterparts. Although many women lack investing confidence, the Fidelity Investments 2021 Women and Investing Study shows women investors achieve positive returns and surpass men by 0.4%. That's based on an analysis of annual performance across more than 5 million accounts from January 2011 to December 2020. The latest study shows women may be outshining men with a buy and hold investing strategy versus frequent trading, which tends to stunt performance over time. Plus, 67% of women are now investing extra savings outside of their retirement accounts. That's a 50% jump from 2018.
Wow. All right. Wow, some interesting numbers there. Silvana, thank you so much.
You got it.
In honor of National Coming Out Day yesterday, DC Comics made a big announcement that the new Superman is bisexual and will start a relationship with a man in a new issue of the comic. NBC News correspondent Kerry Sanders has details on this historic move.
Up in the sky, it's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman.
In the 83 years since Superman arrived on planet Earth, the Man of Steel has fascinated fans.
I've got you.
You've got me. Who's got you? A Daily Planet type headline. DC Comics released this image, igniting a frenzy. John Kent, Lois Lane and Clark Kent's son, coming out as bisexual in celebration of National Coming Out Day.
For a long time, we've been telling the same cis white male story over and over again, and queer characters have been in the mix, but we've been serving his stories. This is part of a pattern on how popular media treats any marginalized group. First, queer characters, we were the villains, and then we were the victims, and then we're the sidekicks, and now finally we can start to be the hero of our own stories. That's the goal here.
And just like his dad fell for Lois, John is enamored with a reporter. The young John Kent's romance is chronicled in an upcoming issue of the comic book. Release date November 9th. The reporter, Jay Nakamura, is a shoulder for John to lean on when the pressures of being a Superman himself now becomes emotional kryptonite. The relationship then goes up, up, and away.
There are so many people reaching out in so many different languages, saying what this means to them.
As the prescient original Caped Crusader once said, the only way to change the world is to quit thinking it's a job for Superman. Real power lies in your own hands. Kerry Sanders, NBC News.
Oh, isn't that fun? Now, by any measure, it's been a big year. Within the last 365 days, we elected a new president. We continued to battle a global pandemic, and our fight against it strengthened as we got our best weapon yet, multiple vaccines. Several super rich guys have sent themselves and others up to space. And on this day 1 year ago, the confirmation hearings began for one of our newest Supreme Court justices, Amy Coney Barrett. Well, also 1 year ago today, this little program that could hit the airwaves or the internet. A team began rising much earlier than the sun to bring you all the news that I just mentioned. And there's something about a morning show that feels a little different than your other news. I think that's true whether you're watching it or delivering it. We're showing the start of our day together, our first meal, first cup of coffee, and preparing for what's ahead. It's an honor for us to have had that space in your home and hopefully in your heart. And we hope that's true for many years to come. Here's a little look at what we've gone through together this year. We're launching our show. We're so happy you're with us. I'm so happy to be with you, Joe.
We're very excited. We'll be here weekday mornings. Breaking this morning, it is official. Congress overnight confirming Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as the next president and vice president of the United States. Pro-Trump supporters stormed the Capitol building, disrupting the Electoral College count. They ran rampant in the halls of Congress. We saw their pro-Trump signs on the hours of video we have. We're only 20 days into 2021, and we've already witnessed an insurrection, an impeachment, now an inauguration.
Welcome back, and let's stay on the coronavirus with the nation's top infectious disease expert. Dr. Fauci, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's a big morning. We now have this new plan from President Biden that we are grateful to be able to discuss with you.
The U.S. has surpassed 21 million cases. More than 1 million Americans have been infected since New Year's Day. First, I caught the virus last month, which forced me away from the anchor desk for nearly a couple weeks, including over Christmas. Now my co-anchor Savannah is home after testing positive.
We need to stay serious, stay home, wear your mask.
This is a tribute to our dear Nick Cordero. Our first pie on the board is a big old slice of Live Your Life pie. And that is a song he wrote. And so he lives inside our little show forever and ever.
If history books won't write about us, how do we tell our stories? How do we share our stories? How does the next generation get to learn about the generation that came before them?
I made sure to use my platform in such a way that where people notice that we matter.
How important is it that we take time to appreciate our teachers?
Wow, please do that. It's everything.
I don't know if I would be here if it wasn't for you, so.
Don't expect me to talk now after that.
I love my kids. Oh my gosh, I love you guys so much.
Now I'm totally crying after you saying how much you love us all.
KJ, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Let's go.
This, you may think, is your board, right?
Looks like it.
Not so fast.
Uh-oh.
We've turned it into the Kornacki board, all about Kornacki.
Oh,
so first of all, did you know how much the internet loves you?
This was news to me that there were things like this happening.
See, we're Twitter's boyfriend.
I'm not even sure what that means, but okay.
Kelly, I'm sad to inform you that for my science credit, I took a class that was dubbed Rocks for Jocks in the geography.
No, you did not.
Tight bundle here.
Ratatouille, the Pixar fave, was turned into a musical created by TikTokers. I think this means that we need to get you on TikTok.
Won't be easy. This weekend is WrestleMania, which Savannah has not been to. There, see, we had food. There you go. There's me and my John Cena t-shirt. And one more question. Llamas or giraffes? What's on your shirt there?
Llamas.
Llamas, love it.
Llamas Friday.
Llamas on Friday.
I'm going to begin by pointing out that you just said it's not too sweet, and there are 26 grams of sugar in this is a small can.
Well,
so
somehow
I doubt I'm going to agree with that. Oh. That's kind of disgusting.
All you got to do is smile that smile and celebrate this country music icon.
I love your love for Dolly.
I do love it very much. Today is Animal Print Day. I don't participate, but Wednesday, as you know, it's Pink Day. So we wanted to bring in some special guests. Aww.
Oh my God! So I wanted to know if you could put together a little song about NBC News Now. Anything that you could kind of...
So I don't know, like NBC News Now, on demand, on your side. NBC News Now, always an awesome ride.
That was fun. We have to make that our theme song. I forgot.
Know, right? I forgot about it too until I watched that earlier. Also, that ending shot, man, how far we were.
I know.
Oh, it's so crazy.
I still haven't gotten used to it. But
yeah.
It was normal. We would like throw each other scripts. You'd be like, I need this script. We like slide it across the anchor table.
Our mics were hot and we had to write a note. But now, much closer, which is so much nicer.
Exactly.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.